You know, Patrick, it seems like not that long ago that our FBI director and deputy director were telling us that there's no there with regard to Jeffrey Epstein and his files. But now that they've been released, I don't know, it seems like perhaps you have now found some there that wasn't even there in what they gave us. What have you got for us today, Patrick? Welcome back to the show.
Hey, thank you, Jason. Yeah. First it was Democrat hoax, then it was there's no files, then it was don't worry about it, there's no Epstein files, then it was, oh, there are files, they're on my desk. So, here we are. But I was trying to give up on the Epstein thing because it was just I couldn't take it anymore. So I moved on to this Ryan wedding saga,
Right.
which we talked about on your last show, and that was about the Canadian drug dealer. Uh, he got arrested in 2008 by feds. Was in federal prison until 2011. Got arrested after 11 years on the run in December of 2025. But this is where I started pulling some threads because all these Epstein files came out, and there was one that stood out to me, and it was about Epstein having members of the Sinaloa cartel at his island. And I said, "Oh, the Sinaloa cartel. Well, that's El Chapo." And also, I remember Ryan Wedding reading that it was the Sinaloa cartel who allowed him to get started with his drug trafficking empire, and that he was a modern day El Chapo, as per Cash Patel, FBI director. So then I started matching up timelines and all these things, looking at files, and I added them to my Ryan Wedding thread. And I realized, I said, with the worlds that these two characters were a part of and the cartel that they were both connected to, I said, I don't think it would be a stretch to assume that Ryan Wedding and Jeffrey Epstein crossed paths at maybe at one point or another. Now, where it gets weird is the thumbnail picture that you provided, and I put the side by side on that thread, is the AI Instagram that we were talking about last episode, based in Bolivia, that claimed to have direct knowledge or claiming to be Ryan Wedding himself. Posted this picture of this helicopter, which was red and black. And in this latest drop of DOJ files for Epstein, uh, it is a 99% match as per ChatGPT. Picture that Ryan Wedding posted on his AI Instagram, and this picture of Jeffrey Epstein standing on the tarmac next to his helicopter, just in a different color. Um, the background, the location, the sunlight, the angles, the reflections on all the mirrors and windows and glass structures on the helicopters. It was a 99% match according to ChatGPT. Now, this pilot, and I don't know if that's Ryan Wedding. The guy looks a little bit old. He's got similar facial hair, similar build, but he's wearing almost the same outfit as Jeffrey Epstein was in that picture that the DOJ released of the yellow and blue helicopter. So this is where, my mind started to spin, and I was like, okay, well, these guys were definitely both in the same world. So why wouldn't have they crossed paths? If both of them had traveled to the Bahamas, South America, Colombia, Mexico, um, and now we know that the Navy SEAL angle, Jeffrey Epstein's Navy SEAL uniform. Now we know that he was connected to Richard Dick Marchenko, who was the first commander of SEAL Team 6 in 1980. He actually set up SEAL Team 6. And if you know anything about Dick Marchenko, he would do this thing. He developed this tactic called red teaming, which is actually used in cybersecurity now. But essentially, he would go to naval bases unannounced. Only critical or essential personnel would know that him and his quote unquote red team were coming. And they would try to find security vulnerabilities in the naval base and then report back to the DOJ. Yeah, there you go, Jason. You have the side by side.
That's amazing, Patrick, because when you sent this to me, I don't think I realized that that's what you were pointing out. And you know what? I think I have to agree. We should also alert our viewers. I used AI today to create this image of Epstein and whoever it is at the same helicopter. Obviously, people should presume when I create a thumbnail image that it is a creative work intended to represent what we're going to talk about on the show. It's not intended to be a news image or an actual image. I think the audience of Crowdsource the Truth has gotten used to that over the years. Obviously, Charles Ortel is not a gladiator. You're not here on the tarmac about to get your head chopped off by the rotors. This is an AI image, but this is, I'm glad that we're talking about this now because you sent this to me earlier and I was like, well, they look like the same helicopter, but I don't really know. So you're saying that this specular highlight on the window over here, these highlights on the door and everything, they are the same. And you know what?
Angles, yeah.
I have to agree. They do look, it's just almost impossible for that to be such a close match and just randomly. That is super interesting. Now, but this is Epstein. So this was released by the DOJ, and that's, according to them, that's Epstein.
Precisely. And look at the shirt that he's wearing with the jeans. That combination also shows up on the Ryan wedding photo.
Wow.
The
so
character.
This photo comes from the Ryan wedding, this Instagram account that until a few weeks ago, people thought was Ryan wedding. Now the DOJ has arrested this dude. Wow, we got to linger on this for a second because I'm not sure people fully understand this. So we had Kash Patel say, no, they're there. No, what he said specifically was there wasn't sufficient evidence to arrest or investigate anybody else. And then suddenly out of nowhere, after hiding in plain sight for that matter, after 11 years or something, this guy is suddenly arrested, and it should be a big deal, but I don't think too many people really know anything about this.
Yeah, so like I was kind of stating before, and if people missed last episode, so Ryan Wedding, this 6'3", and I did get a hate message from somebody I know calling me a dumbass for saying that he was 6'8" because they don't understand hyperbole. So, this guy who is 6'3", 6'4", former Olympic snowboarder. He competed in multiple events. He was at the 2002 Salt Lake City Olympics representing Team Canada. So he started dealing drugs, small time, to people in the Olympic Village here and there. Never got caught, but then in 2008, he was arrested trying to buy cocaine from an undercover agent. It's kind of undisclosed, DEA or FBI. So he goes to prison for 3 years. He gets, or 48 months. He gets sentenced to 48 months in a federal prison where that prison is undisclosed. So the DOJ has not released where that prison was, and I could not find it where he was being housed until 2011.
That's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and that goes back, and I just found that out after last episode, where I speculated that Ryan Wedding was this George Young, Barry Seal, Iran Contra cocaine cowboy who was actually doing CIA and FBI's bidding. But anyways, so he gets arrested, gets released from federal prison in 2011, and then he turns into this drug kingpin with the help of Sinaloa cartel. His travels documented in Bolivia, Mexico, Colombia, all over the place. And this was brought to the attention of Attorney Generals Eric Holder, subsequently Loretta Lynch, Jeff Sessions, William Barr, and now Pam Bondi. So my question is, why did it take 5 attorney generals, Robert Mueller, James Comey, Kash Patel, all these different FBI directors and AGs? How was this guy allowed to be on the run for 11 years and nobody really hears about it until the end of 2025? I just think that's weird, and it coincides almost with this whole Epstein saga. Is Kash Patel was very ecstatic when they arrested him. He wasn't smiling on the tarmac in Ontario, California, but he was trying to market it as this giant historic win for the FBI and the DOJ of capturing this guy. However, he says that he turned himself in to the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City.
Right.
So my question is, why, after 11 years on the run, would you just all of a sudden turn yourself in at the end of the year when you're this international wanted criminal for North American drug trafficking and you're said to have passed billions of dollars through your hands? Why would you just turn yourself into the embassy in Mexico City? I mean, if anybody knows anything about Mexico City, you have American intelligence, you have American law enforcement, you have Interpol crawling all over the place in Mexico City. So I could see you guys nabbing him there, but for him to just give himself up after 11 years, I don't buy that. And Cash Patel even said himself that we went in with a tactical team and we captured Ryan Wedding. Yeah, and there's the AI generation label. Is that from
Now,
CBC? Yeah.
here's the thing. Why is this AI generated? Also, Patrick, we got something going on with your microphone where it's kind of going in and out. Isn't this a weird image for them to say is AI? CBC News has determined the image posted on Instagram was generated using artificial intelligence. Do they tell us how they've determined that? Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum presented reports with a fake image of Ryan Wedding on Monday. So, I mean, what's interesting is they're not explaining an image posted debunked. The image in question was posted to the Instagram account, and you can't get to this anymore, right? Yeah. So that evidence is gone. Recently reported was filled with AI generated images. Okay, so now because they recently reported that it was filled, they don't need to give you any evidence. See, what you just did that's quite interesting, Patrick, is you presented us with two images. And I mean, again, this isn't proof, but it's certainly evidence. You gave an explanation that the very unique detail of a specular highlight, which is going to be determined by the position of the sun, this is a reflection of the sun. The position of the windows, the position of the sun, the position of the helicopter on the top. Look at even the buildings in the background that absolutely looks...
Exactly.
Oh, the car. Look through the window. Come on. You're saying two different helicopters are parked at even at the same airport, and there's stuff through the windows, and it's absolutely the same. So what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, and my working theories right now with that are two things. And those theories have some offshoots of themselves. But theory one is that the Epstein photo provided to by the DOJ in this recent drop is AI generated or heavily altered. Theory number two is that Ryan Wedding's photo is AI generated or heavily altered to reflect this picture of Epstein. But how would he have gotten that picture of Epstein 2 months before the Epstein files dropped?
Do you know what it says
emails?
To me, Patrick? It says to me, because first of all, CBC is coming out and saying, oh, all these Ryan Wedding pictures are AI generated. It's just confusing. I think you and I are more dialed into this particular story than the average person, and we're confused by it. We've been thinking about it now for 2 weeks. I certainly have a lot of expertise in electronic imaging, and we can't quite make heads or tails of it. So the function of it, if we were to deconstruct this, the function of this is it's confusing. It's confusing, and it's going to be confusing to anybody who sees it. And they're saying without evidence that Ryan Wedding images are AI generated. Well, that would cause the average person to think any image that they see of Ryan Wedding is AI generated. Last week, you and I looked at these images of a particular Patek Philippe watch, and I think we both agreed that there's a lot of details in that watch that are typically difficult for AI image generators to get absolutely perfect. And that didn't look like an AI image. It looked like a real image. So what if there is a media department in the DOJ, the FBI, the CIA, whoever it is that these guys might work for, and all they do is generate images that confuse the public as to what the facts are? And if that's true, they've got a library of content that they're using to create images. And maybe this is a mistake or deliberately put out there to be confusing, but I think you've hit upon something. If David Hawkins were still with us, he would be fascinated by this. And in fact, he would demand to do shows with you because he likes people with military background and your expertise. This is fantastic that you found this. So how can we go further with this?
That's the $1 million question. um, I keep pulling this thread, and that's what led me to, all the overlap between him and Epstein, right? The same criminal underworld, the same travel locations, and most importantly, being connected to the Sinaloa cartel. Um, Alex Jones talked about it yesterday, a little bit. He can't talk about it too much, but um, there was a lot of virality to this idea on Twitter yesterday. This is not mine. This is not my idea. I'm not spreading misinformation, just in case CNN wants to, pull this out of context. Um, there is a lot of credence and a lot of people who believe that the Parker family of the Sandy Hook shooting was completely AI generated. And there's speculation that programs like DARPA have had this AI generation software since 2004. So, I think that the DOJ, I've never worked for them, but I would imagine with an administration, with a regime like Kash Patel, that's had a lot of egg on its face, if I were in his position just to secure some wins, I would definitely drop some AI generated images if I thought I could get it past the public. If I thought the public would not catch it, I would definitely do it.
Well, I don't think we need
Um,
to go that far down the road of speculation as far as anything to do with what Alex Jones said or didn't say. But the fact is, we know that very realistic AI image generation exists right now. I'm using it every day. Anybody can use it for free on ChatGPT, on Google, on any of that stuff. Grok image generation. They just raided the office in Paris, saying that there was child pornography or child abuse or some kind of images there. And I mean, there was a big dust up with Grok creating these synthesized images. Before we go much further, Patrick, we should remind people that you're going to be sticking with me after this segment for a sponsor exclusive segment. And we're going to discuss this stuff even more. People can join us on substack.com/@Xingle Company, and that's Xingle Company with an X. Patrick is the founder of the Xingle Company, and people are going to be able to follow him there and sponsor his work. Also, Patrick, why don't you tell us about what's going on, this constant need for you? It's almost like one of those electronic bank ciphers where your Twitter handle is changing almost weekly.
yeah, so I posted about the Dropkick Murphys and how they're not really real Irish guys, and they cosplay as like these IRA um, outlaws. And they posted something on Facebook that I saw, and it was encouraging people to go out and riot against ICE to cause chaos in the streets. So I screenshot it, I posted it on X, and it got picked up by these trans Marxists in Massachusetts and New England, and they were doxing me, they were sending me threats, they were sharing it to all their group chats. They were like, "We need to get this guy," and then they kept posting about me for 2 days. They finally stopped, but I was like, "Okay, how do I get them off the scent?" So I had to keep changing my username. And then when I did that, I went private. They still posted about me. I changed my username again, changed my profile picture again. I had a lot of allies. They were like, "Hey man, is everything okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah." It's just these crazy trans, like they were like teenagers. They're like 17, 18-year-old like trans kids in Boston trying to dox me. And I'm like, because I am calling out a band for rich people that you don't even know, calling for people to riot in the streets. And so Yeah, that's why I've had to switch everything around constantly. Yeah.
I didn't even know who
Yep. There.
Dropkick Murphy was. I thought it had something to do with this Michael Fanone, and I saw our buddy Ivan Rakelin doing pull-ups like a little girl in gym class, kicking up his knees. So the Dropkick Murphys were encouraging people, and it's just a band.
Yeah, they do like they call themselves like Irish punk, but they're
Hmm.
just a bunch of like white like anarcho-communists from Boston who like want to make the soundtrack of a Marxist revolution,
Oh
and
boy.
it's so stupid. Yeah, they and Michael Fanone and all these leftist celebrities are always repping their gear, and I don't
Huh.
think it was a coincidence that he was wearing that shirt. Yep. And the Dropkick Murphys have been
Oh.
all too vocal about January 6th, COVID. They were telling people to shut the fuck up and put your mask on.
That's
And
where I
yeah,
heard of Dropkick Murphys. I thought it was a bar.
no. Yeah.
It's like some kind of
They had
ska band or something.
they had their biggest song, the only one that I ever heard. It was called I'm Shipping Up to Boston, and it was in The Departed. I think they played in The Departed twice. And it was a great song. But now I refuse to listen to it,
Huh. And what happened with this Michael Fanone, Ivan Rakelin, Dusty? He's trying to. Ivan Rakelin wants to fight him in an octagon. He's tagging Dana White. To tell you the truth, as much as I dislike both of these idiots, I think it's probable that Michael Fanone would crack Ivan Rakelin's skull like a walnut.
Yeah. I don't I've only ever heard of Ivan Raiklin from this encounter, and then you mentioned I mean I got some theories about Michael Fanone, but he's protected. So, if you
Hmm.
come after him, you come after all of them. That's the way they operate.
That's for
So
sure. That is for sure. So okay, so back on Dropkick Murphy, Ryan Wedding. Even the name Ryan Wedding. Have you ever heard of anybody with the last name Wedding before? It sounds strange to me.
no. And the fact that when I hear wedding, I think of two things. I think of a bride wearing white, and I think of Billy Idol's song about white wedding. And I'm like, that's funny that, he made his living snowboarding, then he made his other living with cocaine.
Snow.
Um, his last name is Wedding. So I think White would have been way too on the nose. They couldn't get Sean White, so they had to settle for Ryan Wedding.
Yeah, Sean White. I probably mentioned this last time we did a show, but years ago, 21st Century 3D was the first company to shoot the ESPN X Games in 3D, and I was on the half pipe when Sean White was he literally right in front of me. I could have grabbed him. Probably would have thrown me out
Oh,
if I had done that, but it was the best seats you could imagine for the ESPN X Games on the half pipe. It was pretty fun.
that's cool. Hell
Yeah.
yeah.
So we've only
Nice.
got about a minute left before we make our way over to the sponsored segment on subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, and of course on substack.com/Xingle Company. I want to get into more of what you were telling us about Epstein having a connection to the guy who started the Navy SEALs. That's pretty interesting. I don't know that anybody has spoken about that. There's so much coming out of the Epstein files, but it's starting to feel a little bit like just a commotion. It's not like there's something that the DOJ or anybody, it just feels almost like entertainment fodder for people on the internet to make videos about. I don't see Pam Bondi or, we've already gotten the word from Kash Patel. There's no evidence there according to them. So it's weird, right?
Yeah, it just seems like they're giving the public their pound of flesh that they've been
Yeah,
after since 2018.
red
That's what it
meat
seems
for
like.
the while they get
Yeah.
distracted about doing whatever they're going to do next, bomb Iran or crash the dollar, or there's a lot of weird stuff going on with gold. I'm not an economist. I can't really say. But let's do this. We'll be back in just 5 minutes, and we'll continue talking about all this stuff. So stay with us, everybody. We're going to hear more about the naval officer who started the Navy SEALs and what his connection is to Jeffrey